Alan Watts, why you shouldn't take life too seriously. What if I told you that the very seriousness with which we approach life is the same thing that often robs us of its beauty? That somewhere along the way, in our quest to be important, to be successful, to be right, we've forgotten how to live. That's exactly what Alan Watts, the great British philosopher, tried to show us again and again, that life, this strange, beautiful, chaotic performance we're all a part of, is not a problem to be solved, but a dance to be danced. And yet, most of us treat it like a math equation. We think if we can just figure it out, control every variable, solve for X, then we'll finally be happy. But Watts flips that on its head. He says, stop trying to fix life and start playing with it. Because the moment you try to take it too seriously, you stop participating in it. Let's be honest. Have you ever caught yourself in the middle of a busy day, so caught up in your ambitions, your goals, your fears, your seriousness that you forgot to breathe? Forgot to look up at the sky? Forgot, even for a moment, that you are alive? That's the trap. That's the illusion we buy into. Watts called it the hoax of separateness. We walk around thinking life is something outside of us, something to be tamed, conquered, or endured. But what if life isn't something you're going through? What if you are life? What if you're not a drop in the ocean, but the ocean in a drop, as Rumi said? Now, I know what you might be thinking, but life is serious. There are bills to pay, people to care for, deadlines to meet. And yes, of course, responsibility is real. But seriousness is a mindset. It's a weight we carry even when we don't need to. It's the resistance to how things are. It's the belief that you must always be in control. Watts said, the desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing. When we take life too seriously, we cling to control because we're afraid. Afraid of failure, afraid of death, afraid of meaninglessness. But paradoxically, it's only by letting go that we find real peace. Imagine a child playing in a sandbox. She's not trying to win at building castles. She's just playing. There's no future goal. No need for validation. Just presence. And in that play, there's joy. There's life. But somewhere along the way, we're taught to trade playfulness for productivity, to value outcomes over experiences, and to be adults. And yet, Watts would ask, what is an adult, if not a child who forgot how to play?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This isn't about being naive. It's about being awake. Because when we take life too seriously, we forget it's temporary. We act as if we'll live forever, hoarding time, chasing status, building an empire of things we can't take with us. But Watts reminds us, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You are not a static thing. You are a process, a wave in the ocean of being, and waves aren't meant to last. They're meant to rise, crest, and fall beautifully, effortlessly, without resistance. So here's a question for you. When was the last time you laughed at the absurdity of life? Not because life is a joke, but because it's too vast, too mysterious, too wild to be understood completely. When was the last time you danced in the kitchen, sang in the shower, or stared at the stars without needing them to mean anything? That's not a waste of time. That's what time is for. Watts taught that the meaning of life isn't something you find. It's something you realize. And you realize it not by thinking harder, but by dropping the seriousness and simply being here. Let's take a moment to reflect. If you could remove the seriousness from your life just for today, what would change? Would you finally speak your truth? Would you finally call that person you've been thinking about? Would you stop waiting for the perfect moment and just live? You see, the problem isn't that we're not living enough. It's that we're trying too hard to get it right. But what if there's no right way? What if the whole point is to experience it fully without needing to define it? That's the essence of what Alan Watts tried to teach us, not to escape life, but to embrace it with all its mess, its uncertainty, its laughter, and its tears. Because when you stop taking life too seriously, you stop missing it. You stop standing outside of it like a critic and start dancing inside it like a participant. And that, my friends, is freedom. The game of life, why taking it seriously means you're playing it wrong life, as Alan Watts so often reminded us, is not a journey with a clear destination, it's a game. And like any good game, it's meant to be played, not won. But somewhere along the way, we confused playing with competing. We started believing that life is a linear path from point A to point B, where point B is some abstract idea of success, happiness, or enlightenment. We became obsessed with goals and outcomes. We began to measure our worth by how far ahead we were compared to others. And in doing so, we stopped playing. We started grinding. And what's worse, we started suffering. Think about it. When you play a game, especially one you enjoy, you don't play it to get it over with. You don't rush to the end. You play because you love the process. The twists, the turns, the surprises, the challenge, that's the fun. But when life becomes a task to complete, a ladder to climb, or a race to win, we lose the joy. We become so focused on the scoreboard that we forget the point was never to win, it was to play well. Watts compared life to music. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a pilgrimage, and the thing was to get to that end success, or whatever it is. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played. So ask yourself, are you dancing or are you marching to someone else's beat? Are you playing or are you performing? When we take life too seriously, we become rigid. We try to script every scene, control every outcome, and predict every plot twist. But life doesn't work like that. It never has. It's inherently unpredictable, and that's not a flaw, it's the feature. The more we try to control it, the more we suffer. We resist what is, in favor of what we think should be. But what if the game is designed to be unpredictable? What if the chaos is part of the beauty? What if uncertainty isn't the enemy, but the very canvas on which life paints its most vibrant colors? Watts often spoke about the illusion of control and how it leads to suffering. He said, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. But in our seriousness, we stir the mud constantly. We analyze, overthink, plan, and worry. We take things personally. We strive endlessly for certainty. But the paradox is that the more we struggle for control, the more chaotic life seems. And the more we let go, the more peaceful things become, not because the world changes, but because we do. This isn't to say that you should be passive. Quite the opposite. When you stop taking life so seriously, you become more present, more alive, more engaged. You're not paralyzed by fear or perfectionism. You're not obsessed with outcomes. You're free to act, to create, to love, not because you're trying to get somewhere, but because it's your nature to move, to express, to connect. You're no longer playing to win. You're playing because it's fun to play. And that's the real secret, isn't it? The people who seem to enjoy life the most aren't the ones who have everything figured out. They're the ones who've accepted that they never will figure it all out and that it's okay. They've made peace with the mystery. They've embraced the game. They've learned to laugh at the absurdity, to dance in the chaos, and to find joy in the not knowing. So here's something to ponder. If life is a game, and you're taking it too seriously, are you truly playing it? Or are you just surviving it? Because the game doesn't reward the most serious player. It rewards the most awake, the one who sees the rules for what they are: temporary, invented, flexible. The one who knows when to follow them and when to toss them aside. The one who knows that the goal isn't to win, but to enjoy the playing. And maybe, just maybe, when we stop taking life so seriously, we start to actually live. The illusion of the self, and why you're not who you think you are, one of the most radical ideas Alan Watts ever shared, and perhaps the one that makes people the most uncomfortable, is this: you are not who you think you are. Not the name you answer to, not the job you do, not the roles you play, and certainly not the story you keep telling yourself about who you are. All of that, Watts would argue, is just a mask, a persona. A useful illusion perhaps, but an illusion nonetheless. And the more seriously you take it, the more you suffer. We live in a culture obsessed with identity. From the day we're born, we're taught to define ourselves. We're given a name, a nationality, a religion, a set of values. We're told who we are, and then we spend the rest of our lives trying to live up to that image or rebel against it. Either way, we're still trapped in the game of self-definition. But Watts invites us to consider something far more profound. What if the self you think you are is just a story your mind is telling? What if the real you is not a thing, but a process? Not a noun, but a verb? He said, the most dangerous hallucination is the belief that there is only one reality. And isn't that what the ego does? It insists on a single, fixed reality: I am this. I am not that. I must become this to be worthy. I must avoid that to be safe. But in doing so, we become rigid. We build walls around ourselves. We become so invested in our image that we forget we are infinitely more than that. We forget that we're not separate from the universe, we are the universe, looking at itself from a particular point of view. As Watts put it, you are the Big Bang, the original force of the universe, coming on as whoever you are. Now think about that for a second. Not just intellectually, but feel the weight or the lightness of that truth. If you are not merely your thoughts, your history, your achievements, or your failures, then what are you? If the self is a wave, not the whole ocean, then it's not separate, it's just a temporary form of something much vaster. And if that's true, then why are we so obsessed with proving ourselves? Why are we so afraid of looking foolish, of being wrong, of not being taken seriously? Because we think we are the ego. But the ego is just a tool. A convenient interface for navigating the world, much like a user profile on a computer. It's useful, but it's not the whole picture. Yet we cling to it as if it's real. We defend it, protect it, inflate it, or shrink it based on what others think. And in doing so, we lose something essential. We lose our spontaneity. We lose our freedom. We lose our playfulness. We become prisoners of our own image. Watts argued that true liberation comes when we stop identifying with the ego and start recognizing ourselves as processes, expressions of life itself. Imagine a tree trying to define itself as a good tree or a bad tree. It sounds absurd, doesn't it? A tree doesn't worry about being taken seriously. It just grows. It just is. And yet, we humans are constantly judging ourselves, comparing, striving, resisting, all because we're trying to protect a self that doesn't really exist. So here's a question for you. Who would you be if you stopped trying to be someone? Not in a nihilistic way, but in a liberating way. What would it feel like to drop the mask, to stop performing, and just be? No labels, no narratives, no striving, just presence. Just this moment, unfolding. When you realize you are not the self you've been taught to believe in, something magical happens. You stop taking everything so personally. You stop obsessing over your reputation, your legacy, your image. And in that space you find something far more profound, peace. Not the peace that comes from having everything figured out, but the peace that comes from realizing you don't need to. And maybe that's the biggest relief of all. You don't have to be anyone. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to take yourself so seriously. Because the true self isn't something you find, it's something you remember. A presence, a witness, a dance of consciousness, playing in a field of infinite possibilities. The cosmic joke. While laughing at life might be the wisest thing you ever do, there's something delightfully subversive in the idea that the universe is, at its core, a kind of joke, not a cruel one, but a cosmic, divine joke. Not the kind that mocks or belittles, but one that invites you to let go, to laugh, to see through the illusion of seriousness we've all been conditioned to believe in. Alan Watts often spoke of this. He suggested that the ultimate wisdom isn't solemn, stoic silence, it's laughter. The deep, knowing laughter that comes when you finally realize that all your fears, all your struggles, all your attempts to figure it all out were like trying to catch the wind in your hands. You see, the joke isn't on you, it is you. It's me. It's all of us. We're the punchline of our own stories. And that's not a bad thing. It's liberation. When you realize that life doesn't have to be taken so seriously, you're free to dance with it, to laugh when things fall apart, to smile even when you don't know what comes next, to recognize that the universe has never handed you a script, and that's the point. But most people are afraid to laugh at life. We think it means we're not taking our responsibilities seriously, that we're being careless. But that's not what Watts meant. He wasn't telling you to be reckless. He was inviting you to wake up, to see the pattern, to understand that seriousness is often just fear in a tuxedo. And fear can't laugh. Fear clings, fear controls. But laughter opens. It releases, it trusts. And maybe that's where the real wisdom lies. In trust. In trusting that life is not against you. That it's not out to get you. That it's not a test you have to pass. What if, instead, it's a play? And you're not an actor being judged, you're the audience and the performer at once, and the whole point is to enjoy the show. Not to control every scene, but to be in it fully, authentically, lightly. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, am I being serious or am I being present? Am I clinging to a story of how things should be, or am I dancing with how things are? Can I laugh not from sarcasm, not from denial, but from a deep understanding that this is all temporary, all mysterious, all wild and beautiful beyond comprehension? Because here's the ultimate twist. When you stop taking life so seriously, you don't become careless, you become free. Free to love without fear. Free to fail without shame. Free to be exactly who you are without apology. And in that freedom, you might just find the thing you've been chasing all along, not certainty, not control, not perfection, but peace. And maybe that's the final punchline. Life is too important to be taken seriously. So laugh, breathe, dance, be. Because in the end, the joke's not on you, the joke is you. And that's the most beautiful thing of all.